Hey, Sens fans, welcome back to another episode of Talking Some Sens. Alongside myself, I've got Chris Sinclair as always. How you doing today?
Bonjour. I'm doing quite well, thank you. Despite another loss.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll get into that. But it's great to be here. It's great to be talking some Sens stuff, in spite of their now 0-5
you did there.
road record. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I see what you did there, by the way.
Yes.
Nice. I
How
like
are
that.
you, by the way? How are you?
Doing good. I live tweeted that game and I did not want to watch that game in the slightest, but
Nope.
you got to do what you got to do. Am I right?
Yep.
I've completely put a halt to my betting this year when it comes to sports betting because it's just I just bet on the Sens every game because it's what a fan does.
Yeah.
And every fan's got their strategy. But for other teams, I will bet differently. But I'm done betting Sens games because I always bet the Sens and I always lose. So I'm done betting the Sens this year.
Yeah, betting is always about like getting money and earning money and winning
Yeah.
money, not about losing it. So yeah, that's probably a sound strategy there. We're no financial advisors
No,
record, but at the same
no,
time, it's better to win than lose. I mean,
oh
I'm
for
not a
sure,
math
yeah.
guy, but I feel like that's probably fair.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I said, it's ideally I don't want if I think the Sens are going to lose, I just don't bet that game for the most part.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
it's getting to the point where because I can't be a fan and bet against my team.
Yeah.
So it's just to me, if I think Sens are going to lose, I just don't bet that game. And it's
Yeah.
gotten to the point where Sens are just losing, so I don't bet. But
Yep.
again, I'm not giving you any sports betting advice. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just telling you what I do.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's get right into it.
Good to clarify. Yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive into this game.
Oh yeah. Um, how would you describe this past game against the Buffalo Sabres? Because we're recording this about an hour after the game ended. We wanted to decompress before we recorded. So, what are your thoughts on that game in one sentence?
I don't know that I could sum it up in one sentence, but I would say maybe I can actually by saying that it took us an hour to get to this point. So I would say,
Yeah.
and period. Yeah, I would say, listen, we talked about this on the last episode where and I struggle because I'm the eternal optimist and I hate it. And trust me, I get that it's insufferable to hear as as like a Sens fan. You're like, dude, like this guy just keeps saying the positive thing. Great, but if, like I don't need to hear that stuff right now. But at the end of the day, like we need to remember this continues an evaluation process.
Oh yeah.
Tonight was a perfect example of that with having Greg elevated. And I actually thought Greg was one of the highlights of the game. I
He was
thought that
Ottawa's best player, not named Claude Giroux tonight.
absolutely, I agree with that. And we're seeing that sort of for that individual player in being Greg, we're seeing how agile he is to being able to be elevated in the lineup, and that's exactly what he brings. And it's also interesting to see him playing his aggressive style. He's very, very physical and playing with not necessarily the most physical of players. And it's great to be able to see that. So forgive me as I lean heavily. I just need to find a silver lining. So, and that's what's going to help me proceed throughout the season. But I mean, so forgive me again, but that's one of the highlights for me. I thought overall this was a terrible game. It sucks to see Forsberg, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but to see Forsberg go, obviously that could be. I hope it isn't a long-term thing. It's his groin. But any sort of lower body injury for Forsberg is obviously a concern. And then, Korpisello comes in, and I've said this once, and I will say it 1,000 more times.
That wasn't fair for him.
That wasn't fair for him. Prepare your drink, because what's Chris going to say? Defensive structure, right? So you saw, thank you. Thank you, Jake, for taking that. And thank you for all of the audience, the listener who happened to also enjoy that beverage. Corpusello came in, and I'm sure he's going to reflect on this game and say, I should have saved some of those. There were some savable saves, but ultimately it came down to the structure in front of him. You saw as soon as Forsberg goes down, there's no, like, they don't know how to adjust to a new goaltender coming in. So Corpusello wasn't put into the best of scenarios. Now, I'm not going to say that he shouldn't have saved those saves, but he did not. He was, in my opinion, he was not the reason they lost that game.
No,
the reason they lost that game was because they weren't able to make those necessary adjustments, especially on the defensive end of the puck. I've talked for a significantly too much amount of time, and as much as I appreciate the sound of my own voice, Jake, I want to hear what you have to say.
I'll agree with you in the sense that this game was not fair for Joonas Korpisalo. Anytime that there's a goaltending change within the game, I do not expect anything of that goaltender coming in, because it's impossible to come into a game when you're not starting it to be hot on the spot. He allowed his first 2 shots in net, which sucks, and it's just not fair to him. But once he warmed up, he was a lot better. There were 2 shots, the 2 final goals that he allowed, he should have saved. But again, I get to the point where it's not fair to evaluate a goalie based on having to come in, whether it because the starter got pulled, whether it be injury, whatever reason may be. It's not fair to expect like the world out of someone coming in.
Yeah, and I would also say, when we look at the game stats, we're also looking at it's it doesn't look good. Like, ultimately, they were actually very even in terms of shots on goal. So it's 28 for Ottawa, 32 for Buffalo.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
Their face-off was exactly the same, 50-50. So that's great. Power play. I mean, again, we continue to struggle with the specialty teams, right? So power play was, we went 0 for 4. Buffalo went 1 for 3. Now, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but that's still, like, it's their power play, their special teams continues to let them down, because when we look at everything else, we're looking at hits, they were even. It was 24-24, both teams. Block shots, though, that's another spot where it's like, the Ottawa's just not getting into the lanes. They're not, when we talk about, especially a goaltender like Korpisalo, who requires like strong, everyone drink, defensive structure. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're looking at, when we look at block shots, Ottawa only had 14. Buffalo had 27 block shots, right? And even like when we talk about giveaways, takeaways, like everything else is fairly even and expected in a game, but it's those fine details that really, really matter for this team and are really, really impacting them.
You're not wrong. And that's just, I hate saying this because at the end of the day, you're right. This comes down to evaluating the roster. And like we said in our last episode, some players will be playing in more elevated roles than it should be. This season at this point is not about winning. It's about learning what you have, learning what you don't have, learning what you need, and assessing the growing pains. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be a hell of a season until it's done. It's going to be really difficult to watch some games, but some games, hopefully, it's going to be great. But there's got to be some progress in terms of changing some things up. And I've got a couple things I'm going to talk about a little bit later in terms of special teams to suggest later, but I'm not going to talk too much on special teams until later because it's going to feed into something else. But my point is I just think that the only 2 good points of this game for me tonight were Claude Giroux. I hate that I'm calling Claude his Claude. I'm French. I should say his name properly. Claude Giroux and Ridley Gregg.
Yeah.
And it poses the question that I was thinking of what you were saying. What if when Josh Norris does come back, because he's going to be missing some time to injury, how much time right now? That's unknown. What if when you trade Tarasenko and Kupelu, because that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
What if you threw Josh Norris at wing? I've talked about this at the beginning of the season, and so many people called me stupid and called me names, but I see so many people bringing it up now. What if you have a lineup of first line, Ridley Gray, not Ridley Gray, my bad. Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux. Second line, whoever you want to put there. Josh Norris, Ridley Gregg, Drake Batherson. Ridley Gregg being in the center spot. Either Gregg or Pinto, one of the two.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this where I chime in?
Yeah, I'm asking you:
okay?
Does Josh Norris fare better as a winger on this team potentially?
From a perspective of, I'm still always worried every time he takes a draw on what his shoulder is going to do. Absolutely, but outside of that, no. I would absolutely when Norris is back and when we have Pinto back, you will have Stützle, Norris, Greg, and Pinto and Greg. That's how I think.
Greg's going to be on the left side, though. He's going to be a wing. Either Pinto or Greg's going to be a winger. I don't see them running those four centers.
No, and I'm happy to be wrong. I've been wrong once. I've been wrong 1,000 times. But I just think if you have your center group lined up like that, I think what's great about, and I would say what's great about either Pinto or Greg, and I think this is something that we're going to start to see more of, is both of them are capable of moving or of being elevated up and down the lineup.
Sure.
So I would say
the thing is, they're both too good for the fourth line. So the question is, which one do you put on the fourth line? Which one do you put on the third line? Or is it just fair to have them both on the same line?
No, it's easy. You want, when it comes to, especially right now, when it comes to the third line, you want a slightly more skilled, a player who can push the puck, push the play a little bit more. So that's where you'd want to have a Pinto, just like he was last season. Well, I mean, sure. I would say just like he was last season, but he did get elevated. But regardless, like that's where you'd want him. And on the fourth line, you want somebody who can really push, who can really grind out, and who's much more physical. And that's where you get, that's where you would get a Greg, because he can, I think he would have an incredible impact on a player like Kelly. I'm not at all thinking it's going to be McEwen, but I mean,
right now he's the guy who's on the spot. So I go,
yeah, exactly. So it's going to have to be him reluctantly, but I just think that
he's a placeholder.
Exactly. I just think that with Greg on that fourth line, he will be able to open up a ton of space for both Kelly and for McEwen. So I just think that he's going to be able to really drive that. I don't want him on that line. I would much rather, he's showcased his abilities to be able to be higher in the lineup, and I don't want that to take away from the how important he is for this team. I don't want that to be the perception, but I just think in terms of how this lineup can move and can be adjusted, I just think that, the top two lines, those are set in terms of your center group, and then your bottom group, it just lines up just too well for you to be adjusting. And so, like, if you're saying move Norris to a wing, like, who would you put? Are you saying that Kastelik deserves an opportunity? Like, yeah, he's a great he's a really big body in net, or in net for presence, but like, what do you, who takes over that space?
See, here's my thought process. I like that you thought that Ridley Gregg could definitely complement the fourth line, 100%. But Ridley Gregg has complemented every single line that he's been on. And in my opinion, you want to reward that player instead of, because the fourth line so far under Jacques Martin has played an average of about 4 minutes a night. That's playing Gregg on 4 minutes a night is a waste. So that's why I think that if he and Pinto were on the same line alongside Mathieu Joseph, that would be one of, if not the best third lines in all hockey, which gives you the deepest or one of the deepest top nines in all of hockey. Where right now your placeholder at fourth line center is Mark Haselick. At this point in time, I think it's you got to find someone else because he just hasn't been great this year. But you never know. Maybe he wakes up at some point in time. And like I said, it's just right now your fourth line is a bunch of scrubs, but that can be changed over an off season, right?
Yeah, but why like and forgive me, I know that you gave me the freedom to be able to chat and you didn't interrupt me. So
No, it's all good.
with all due respect, but why do you need to be looking outwards when you can look inwards and say we actually have exactly what we need, right? Like I think Kastelic he had a great season last year.
Yeah,
I don't think I think that he's a fringe, maybe like a 13th forward. I think that he would obviously provide a ton of leadership in Belleville. Do I think that he's a long term solution at fourth line center? No, but I think it's not a knock against Greg to put him on the fourth line. I think especially early on in his career, this is a perfect spot for him. He is that's exactly what you want. Now, you want a larger presence, like physically, literally larger presence. So that's where Kastelic comes in handy. But Greg, specifically for the net front presence and stuff like that. But for me, I'm sitting here saying we already have it, so we don't need to
that's
be
fair.
looking
It's
outwards.
just, yeah. I hear you. I do. I'm not going to agree with you on it because I think you're wrong, respectfully. Like I think in this situation, our opinions, my opinion is not going to change, and your opinion is not to change. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the fans: do you want Ridley Gregg in the bottom on the fourth line, or do you want him on the third line?
I would but there's a caveat there because I said early on I'm fine with this. I'm fine with this vote. But I
Sure.
said early on that one of the things about Greg is that he can be elevated in higher in the lineup. So I don't want
Yeah.
people to say I don't like that's a very black and white answer question. My thing is that he is one of the things that I love about Greg, and I've said this early on, is that not only can he be elevated to a third, I would say probably want to keep him in the bottom six, but potentially, I mean, we saw him tonight on the top line.
It was great.
Yeah, he was fantastic. We talked about this off air. Like he was fantastic. It was incredible. Typically, you want him in the bottom pairing, but he could be elevated to a middle six forward. But what's great about him is that he is absolutely capable of playing all positions, right? So he's not just a center.
Exactly.
Which is great. So I just want, if we're going to vote, I just want that sort of caveat put in there where it's not like Chris is saying, nope, he's only a bottom six forward because he
That's
isn't.
fair.
But in this particular scenario, right now, I would be fine with saying if we're talking about our center depth, we're talking about Stutzla, Norris, Pinto, Greg. If that's where we're at, if
Sure.
that's the vote, let's throw it at the people. I'm fine.
Sure, but I think sure. Basically, the argument here is, for the sake of this, do you see Greg as more important as a center, like you're suggesting, or do you see him as more important as a winger, like I'm suggesting? Whereas, in my opinion, as a winger, he can play higher in the lineup, whereas as a center, right now he slots lower in the lineup.
I
Is
would
that what
say
I'm
this.
understanding?
Yes. So I get that, and we can kind of wrap this up in just a moment. But what I would say is, I absolutely think that he is a better center than than a winger, and the reason for that is because he has the innate skill to be a center, right? So
Sure.
if he is able to play center, if you need him to play center, would it be great to have a more elite center there? Absolutely. But he is already capable of playing that, and he can play that role where basically, like, arguably your second, third, or fourth line.
Sure.
and you can move other players elsewhere. The wingers are easier players to find in
Yeah.
theory.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, it's not. I mean, money. But I would say if you're looking for right now what this team has centers. So instead of trying to move a center to a wing, keep him at center, even if he's playing a little bit of a lower line, even if he's playing a little bit lower in the lineup, and find those complementary wingers who will be able. These centers will be able to elevate.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do a vote on this after the podcast goes live, and Chris and I will figure out the nitty gritty of this exact vote. But yeah, I will end off on saying this though. I think one of Ottawa's bigger issues, other than their defensive structure, drink, and all that other stuff, I think one big issue for the Senators remains their consistency. They're not able to play a consistent game because of all the changes that's happened throughout the last 5 years. DJ Smith changed lines so often that players never had a specific line. And so far, same thing with Jacques Martin, and that's not gonna stop, because at the end of the day, his job is not to win games. His job is to evaluate what this team is and what this team isn't. But going forward for long-term success, I think each player should have a consistent role. And if we're going with what you say, then that's a little counterintuitive to that, because that means you're just changing with Greg kind of every night based on what your team needs. And at the end of the day, there's always going to be movement. But if you're planning to move Greg every single night, I think that's going to be not necessarily the best thing for the team.
I will just quickly, because I hate the sound of my own voice, and I've said that a couple of times. I will say you can have both. So you can have an evaluation, which is, I think you nailed it on the head. That's exactly where we're at right now. It sucks to be a Sens fan right now, but just know that this is a part of a process. This is a part of a long-term process. And everyone is being evaluated, and that's exactly what this team and what this organization needs and hasn't had. We're looking, I know it is cliched, but we're looking for best in class, and that's a part of this process. But what I would say is, I wasn't saying that a player like Greg or Pinto is going to be constantly moving. I agree with you 100%. Like, we are going to set these lines, but the benefit of having a player like Greg in your lineup, or actually in this case specifically Greg, is Greg can play all forward positions, so he can be elevated in the event of an injury. So if I didn't say, if I didn't clarify, then that's on me. Moving forward, that's what I meant was, with barring injury, he will be set in that role, but he is able and capable to be elevated into, arguably, again, it's going to be a middle six, although he did really well in the top line tonight, but he can be
Ridley Gregg's not. Yeah, we're not arguing about the fact that Ridley Gregg should be the first line center, because at the end of the day, that's Tim Stützle until the day he's not an Otter Senator, whatever that is.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's Tim Stützle's spot until either he retires or until he's not an Otter Senator, which is not going to be for another 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's not being traded. Yeah. But yeah, I would say, objectively speaking, I do agree with that. So I just wanted to provide that sort of clarification on what I intended. Was that it wasn't that I was thinking that Greg would be moving up and down the lineup. It's only based on injuries or whatever.
Oh, for sure. On that note, though, we're going to stop bickering like an old couple, and we're going to take a minute to have a break and have a bit of a message from our sponsors, DraftKings.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved. And now, back to the show.
And we're back to the show. So, we spoke a bit about that last game. That we'll put it in the past. That game's done.
Yep.
But what I want to talk about now, unless you have anything else to add, I want to talk about coaching. Not necessarily who's going to be the coach of the Ottawa Senators, but whoever's in charge going forward of the penalty kill and the power play. I've done a lot of research today, and like a lot of it, like I've watched through a lot of game tape, I've learned a lot about different schematics and stuff like that. I think I found a special team structure that might work for the Senators. And for this, I'm going to pull out my inner Shannon from the Hockey Guy on YouTube, and a little poster board over here. So this is going to benefit the people watching on YouTube for the most part.
Yeah.
So while I work on this little poster board, what do you want to talk about? Because I can't talk about it.
I mean, first of all, for all of our video listeners, or video watchers, I guess it's going to be great to see Jake's handwriting or try to decipher it. It's going to be terrible. So I'm super stoked about this. But what I would say is, what I appreciate, like, let's not necessarily talk about who should be a coach I guess how the coaching has been, because again, we've talked about the fact that this seems to be a very elaborate diagram you're creating there. I like this. I would say, again, I cannot stress enough, like, it sucks. Let's be honest, this sucks. This was supposed to be a year of much better results. I know in my preseason sort of rankings, I had Ottawa making the playoffs this year. They will not, unless they go whatever it is, 30-0, basically. I think at this point, 35-0 or something like that. They're not going to make the playoffs. So we need to come to terms with that. But at the same time, or in spite of that, there's a lot to actually really appreciate about where the management team is at and what they're planning on doing. So the management team right now is going through a process in which they are evaluating all aspects of it.
Oh, sorry. While you're talking, I'm just finding the best way to position myself.
No, this is great. I didn't know what it was at first, but now I'm realizing you're actually playing this is legit coaching. So this is fantastic. Yes. This was for anyone who's listening. What we're looking at right now is I'm looking at a whiteboard,
the offensive zone, or the defensive zone,
which I thought was just an unhappy face at first, which is very accurate. Is actually is a whiteboard. Jake has so graciously drawn up the defensive zone. So he has some ideas as to how we're going to structure I'm assuming the defensive zone.
The penalty kill, most specifically. I'm working on special teams right now.
Okay.
Another episode, we'll talk about different zones of the ice. But
okay.
This episode is just going to be special teams.
And I'm going to stop blabbering on, and I will say this. What they need is to let go of Capuano.
Absolutely.
I was not a fan of the hiring to start out with, and we've seen, yes, some glimpses of decent performance, but ultimately he should not be allowed to control the defensive zone, and that's exactly what he's doing, and he's clearly not capable of it. We're seeing much more, I was going to say success with the power play, but specialty teams is letting this team down, and we're seeing it. So I'm going to throw it to you, Jake. That's what I want to say. I'll stop blabbering.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off with what this team is currently trying to do. What they're currently trying to do is they're trying to do like a passive diamond box type of thing where you got F1 and F2 up here, D1 and D2 down here. And say a guy comes in here, goes here. F2 is going to shift here. F1 is going to take F2 spot. D1 is take F1 spot, and D2 is going to take D1 spot. That's what they're currently kind of doing. Not working. Not working at all.
I've never seen this detail. This is fantastic. So this is really going to help if you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see exactly what's happening. But Jake is doing a fantastic job with breaking down the defensive zone and what it means to be whether it's on the power play or whatever. This is fantastic. This is great. This is
what they're trying to. That's what they were trying to do. This is what they should do instead. First and foremost, have D1 and D2 move as a unit, kind of like how they're supposed to be doing on the penalty kill right now, where if this guy goes here, this guy takes that spot. That's what they should kind of be doing. Well, I'm going to be talking about the triangle +1. It's going to be a 3-man unit with a rover. So say you got your D1 here and your D2 here. Your F1 is going to kind of be in the middle here. So F2 is going to kind of be a rover. He's going to be either over here or over here, wherever the puck is. So say you got a guy coming with the puck going around here. Your F2 is going to be rover here. But if, see here, this is the opposition. The opposition is able to pass the puck over here. F1 is now going to become F2 and go here. And F2 here is going to take his spot in F1 to cover the, I'm going to call it the center slot of the defensive zone. Keep in mind, I'm not a coach, so I don't know all the terminologies. This is just what I've been researching here.
Yeah, it's essentially you're creating that's just the bumper, the defensive
kind
bumper.
of. Yes. And then this guy be applying pressure here, and these D are going to be obviously going to be protecting the net while also covering passing lanes.
Yeah.
And the most important part of this is these two working as a unit. So if this guy goes up, this guy goes up too. If this guy goes to that side, he comes with. I'm sick and tired of seeing this and that because that's not working as a unit. That's working as a one-man team. And that's what's been going on.
Just for the record, for our audio listener, what Jake was describing was he's frustrated with seeing the defensive pairing going opposite directions rather than supplementing one another by stepping in where the other person has now become activated in their defensive zone. So just for everyone.
Because that's what that does is say when this guy goes here and this guy goes here, your entire slot is opened up, and that's your most high dangerous shot spots. You want to keep the slot as clogged up as you can to take away those passing and shooting lanes.
Yeah, you want to keep everyone to the outside. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
exactly.
And as soon as you start, if you as a defenseman are moving to one of the sides, then it opens up the middle of the ice. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Next of all, we're going to talk about the power play, because I think that was pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. You kind of have one guy there and have one guy rover, and you switch man on depending on what side the puck is on.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about the power play. What they're kind of doing, I'm not even going to try to draw it because it's just not working. They're kind of doing like a 1-3-1 umbrella type of thing. And they're kind of just trying to pass to each other and creating a shot. But the thing with the umbrella is it's the most used power play schematic in the entire NHL. So it's the easiest thing to coach against because every single team knows it. One that was used with pretty sure it was the New York Rangers when Yager was there. They used the overload 1-2-2 system. So what that does is they kind of hug one side of the ice. Sorry, apologies. Say your D1 is here and your D2 is over here. Obviously, you want these guys moving as a foosball. So when you go to foosball, when you play foosball, you're moving is that vertically or horizontally? I forget. Horizontally. Vertical is up and down. Horizontally. You're moving in one direction.
North south.
No. East west. You're moving east.
Sorry,
west.
east west. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're moving east west, and you're moving together. So you want your D moving together either to the left side or to the right side. But you want them to pinch that area, not pinch. You want them to cover that area and have one guy here and have one guy kind of here, able to go here if needed, but not as a main requirement. So your defense is going to hug the blue line and push forward as your forwards go up around here.
This is the power play again, right?
Yeah, this is power play now.
Yeah.
So your F1 is going to be here. Your F2 is going to be here. Your F3 is going to be here.
So your F2 is your bumper.
Yes, right over here, your bumper.
Okay.
So this guy is going to be mostly in charge on this side of the ice. F2 is going to be in charge of getting most shots on, the most high danger shots. F1 is going to come down here and get the garbage. So you'll be your garbage collector and hit the rebounds. F3 is going to be a bit of a rover as well, but he's also going to help set up the play. Yeah. So he's going to pass to him. He's going to shoot. He's going to get the rebound is what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
Or if you want to move to the other side of the ice, it's the exact same thing.
Sorry, as Jake is frantically.
Sorry, I'm writing on the. Yeah,
it's setting everything up here. Sorry for audio listener.
Yeah.
I mean, as I'm filling this in right now, I would say the only thing I would say is I would love this team to be more aggressive with the bumper.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. I think what everything you said defensively, so PK, offensively with the PP, I love this. More aggressive with the bumper.
For sure. Yeah.
Now you're ready to go. So I filled in the blanks.
So no, for sure, exactly. Yeah. You want your bumper to be your main offensive threat. So this would be in this iteration of the team. That would be your Josh Norris. That would be your Vladimir Tarasenko. Hell, it could even be your Dominic Kubalik if you need him to be, because he's got a good shot.
Yeah.
Here, your F1 is going to be probably Brady Tkachuk, Ridley Gregg, Yuri Smaka, all those types of players. And your F3 is going to be a Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux, even Drake Batherson type of thing. Because the F3 is going to kind of be setting up the play for F2 to shoot or F1 to get the rebound or vice versa. While the defense are available to shoot or to help cycle that puck in to get them from one side of the ice to the next.
Yep.
That's enough of Coach Jake. I'm not a coach. That's just what I think the Sens should do.
Well, the good news is we have a lot of disagreements on the show, but this is I'm like I said, outside of making sure that we activate that bumper, that was sound. That was, and seriously, for anyone who's listening to this, please watch that segment on YouTube. That was Jake, great job with breaking that down. I think that was bang on. And I think it's just it's about this, that again, we talk about. And this is one of those things where Jacques Martin is going to instill in these players, and we will expect it as a result with the next head coach. It's about those details, right? It's just about playing a simple game. It's not about making it complicated. It's just about those little details. And those little details are what we saw at tonight's game. Those little details continue to impact the outcome of this game, whether it's defensively or offensively. And Jake, I think you nailed it. Thank you. So, yeah, absolutely. The whiteboard was a fantastic addition. Let's keep that
super high budget show. I see.
Yeah, the budget for this show just became exponentially more expensive. So that's great. But no, it's great. Let's get those visual representations. I think you nailed it. So fantastic.
Maybe next episode I'll see what I think the Sens should do in their neutral zones. I've got a lot of notes on that too.
Oh yes, that's something. Yes, I think that we should highlight that for sure. Yeah, I agree. I've got a whole paper here of what I think should do. But on that note, let's, instead of going to talking about what we want in terms of penalty kill,
let's talk about, first and foremost, I've said it, Chris has said it, we've all said it the last episode of the podcast. Jacques Martin is an interim head coach. He will not be the head coach of the Ottawa Senators going forward. So with that being said, let's talk about what we want in terms of a coach, not who should be the coach. Let's talk about qualities that a coach should have. I'm going to start off first and foremost. I think the most important thing is to be able to communicate. This coach has to be able to articulate his expectations, break down the game in pieces that are easy to understand, kind of like what I did there. Like I said, I'm not a coach. Whoever's going to be the next coach of the Ottawa Senators, it should be a lot better than me. But I think what I did there is something that DJ Smith has never done in his entire time as his Ottawa Senators head coach. Someone who's able to break down the X's and O's and communicate who F1 is, what F2 does, what F3 does, each person, what their role is in a given play. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. And we'll get into this in a moment. But my time with the PWHL Ottawa team, covering their practices, seeing their head coach, Carla McLeod, that's exactly what she's doing, right? She's, first and foremost, she's an effective communicator. If you have ever heard Carla McLeod speak, you forget where you are, because she's just incredible with how she communicates with us as media, with you as fans, and with the players. Like, it's just incredible, and it draws you into her message, what she needs from her players. That's exactly what this team needs, right? So I think we're starting to see that with Martin. And yes, it sucks. This sucks. We can say it 1,000 times. Jake, how do you feel? Does this suck?
It sucks big time.
Exactly. So I would say, bear with it, but I would 100% agree. These, especially with these younger players have, and there are a lot of stories out there where it's like, the inmates are running the asylum, right? Where it's the youth of this team is running this team, which this youth is incredible, but there needs to be more than just a Claude Giroux who's helping, or forgive me, Travis Hammock, who I know it's tough, but
go back to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Or go to jail.
Yeah, directly to jail. I appreciate that, but
life sentence.
Yeah, there are a few veteran voices that are helping to guide this team. So it's just a bunch of really talented but really inexperienced players, and that was exacerbated by the fact that you had a very inexperienced head coach. So when you bring in that strength, that voice, that communicative ability, you will be able to generate and create so much and draw out of these players everything you need, and be able to it's not just about drawing out what you need, but just elevating these players to what they can be. And that's something that they haven't seen yet. So they don't believe necessarily consistently in themselves. But when you have a great communicator, you have somebody who's able to say, you know what, Jake, you're capable of this, and I believe in you, and I'm going to put you in these positions.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I got you. You can draw. You can draw some pictures on a whiteboard, so you're ready for this. But yeah, I cannot more wholeheartedly agree with that. Communication and experience. Those are the two, and I'm sure we're going to get to it, but those are the two things that I would say.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly, that was going to be my next point. The next thing is, I would say, is enforcing discipline, and that goes to not letting the inmates running the asylum. There has got to be some sort of hierarchy comparing the players to the coaches. Not saying that the coaches should be yelling, screaming, cussing tantrums. That's not what I'm saying. But you got to send a message that nobody gets a free ride. Hold your players accountable for their conduct on and off the ice. When it comes to players not showing up to skates, players being late to meetings, players having a bad shift, sit them down for a bit. Let them watch what's going on the ice. But don't just do it to embarrass them. Do it to send a message of, hey, what you're doing right now isn't working. Sit down, watch, then go back on. And prove me wrong for us sitting you. Cracking the whip should never be the first attempt at discipline. If you absolutely have to yell, at that point you have to. But it should never be your number one try. It should be a last resort. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, communication doesn't mean it's this new age of hockey, these new players. That's not the way that you communicate with them. You have to, sure, it's about holding people accountable, but it's about also just connecting with them and understanding, hey, listen, like this is what I expect from you, but it's about how you communicate that message with them. Again, it just comes back to being an effective communicator, right? Like, I think that's what we're talking about, right? And I think that's something that this team has lacked over the last. I mean, for various reasons, this is something the team's lacked over the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? It's like that just genuine person who wants to see this team succeed and is a great communicator who doesn't just yell and scream. It's not, like you said, it's not about yelling and screaming. That doesn't mean anything. That's not this current generation of hockey. That's old school hockey. Get rid of it. Sure, it had its time, but that's not what this is about. This is about connecting with a player and understanding, like, hey, listen, you're having a tough game. Walk me through what's happening. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? And then putting them in a position to be able to be successful. And it's understanding the game on a sort of like I was going to say a neuroscience level, but like a real neurological level, right? Where it's
Precisely.
like, it's not just about like a win or a loss, but it's like, walk me through your game and I will help you become even better, and supporting. And it's about being supportive. And,
Exactly.
I could go on, but I absolutely, so far, I love a good hot take, and I love when we disagree, but we are absolutely on the same page.
So far, yeah. The next thing is you're stealing the words out of my mouth. Knowing what to do in every situation of the ice and knowing how to be better and learning from mistakes. Know what to do in the D zone. Know what to do in the neutral zone. Know what to do in the offensive zone. Know how to turn a mistake into an opportunity and knowing how to limit chances against. Be able to structure the play. Be able to use the right players for the right occasions on the ice. Learning each player's strengths and weaknesses to be able to match lines based on players complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. And that's kind of what Jacques Martin is doing right now by playing guys in roles. Maybe they shouldn't be in that role, but to learn what they are able to do and to learn what they're not able to do. That's what he's doing. That's how he's learning it. Tim Stützle is a great playmaker, but for whatever reason this year, his shot sucks. So naturally, you want to pair the playmaker to someone who can finish those shots, those passes, like a Vladimir Tarasenko. That's the first example I can think of. Sorry, still sick. But yeah, being able to use players to their best ability and figuring out how to correct mistakes. And being able to create a winning culture by treating the players with professionalism and respect. Like I said earlier, having a bit of a hierarchy. You don't got to try to be their best friends, but at the end of the day, the coach is the player's supervisor and manager. Make sure that there's ability to be strict, but in a fair way. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, we go back to the point of, this team being run by the inmates. It's the asylum being run by the inmates. It's one of those things where you ultimately, like, you just need to have that voice in that room to be able to share, the ultimate vision of this team, to be able to be there to support the team, to be able to support the players, to be able to support. It's ultimately, I think what I could blabber on, but what I'm really saying is, and I know that we weren't looking at specific examples of what the next coach or with whom the next coach should be. But what I would say is I really do want this next coach to be someone who's experienced, who has who's not new. Like there are reports that it's the leading candidate is John Gruden. For the record, not the football coach, which is something
not the football coach, the former Ottawa Senator and the father of I'm French, the father of former Ottawa Senator. There's two John Grudens. They both played for the Senators, father and son. That's so cool.
Yes. But he's again, we're not, I don't want to get too much into this because we don't want to talk about specific examples, but he is the current,
not today.
Yeah. He's the current head coach of the Marlies, but regardless, like I understand the ties there, but for me, someone who just has experience, who can really run that space, really run that room, and just be able to be a great communicator like that. Just imagine a space in which, I get the thrill and the excitement of, a DJ Smith who will just let the kids do what they need to do. Get out there, kids, get out there. We're not going to change much. But we're not going to challenge you to be able to elevate your role, to be able to elevate your skill set. We're not going to try to develop you. Those are the things where an experienced coach would come in. So yes.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, there is a spot for a coach to be your kind of your best friend. That's Absolutely. Not the head coach's job. That's kind of, currently speaking, the guy's job who's that's supposed to be is Bob Jones. Bob Jones, what his job basically is to take the players' feedback and communicate it to the coaches in a way that the coaches will understand. So there's a job for that. That's not the head coach's job.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that we have to move past the idea or the notion of the head coach being the best friend, right? Like
100%. I'm sick of that.
Yeah, it's great. Like, don't get me wrong. I think, again, and forgive me, I will shut up after this, but like, forgive me, but it's important to be able to be, as a leader, to be a manager, to be able to, whatever it is, whatever that elevated role is, there is absolutely a part of that, the aspect of being in that role to be able to connect and inspire and motivate the players. But you have to do so objectively, and you to do so as a best friend not only hinders the entire team, but it hinders your relationship with those players, which I guess it hinders your relationship with that player, but it will actually hinder the overall culture of the team and ability to win, right? If you're trying to be everyone's best friend, then you're going to prevent the team from being able to achieve the success that they have, or that they could to achieve their ultimately to achieve their success as a team, right? You're holding everyone back by trying to be someone's friend. Mm-hmm. And that's not what this team needs anymore. This team needs results. And it sucks for some of the players. I know there were some reports from Tim Stützle where he spoke about DJ Smith and the impact he had. And we've heard a number of conversations around the impact and the importance of DJ Smith. It was great when they needed that, but they don't need that anymore. They need to be pushed. We need somebody who can do that. So who's going to do that? We're going to talk about that at some point, I'm sure.
Oh, exactly. Well, we're not going to think of any exact names. This is going to kind of be the start of a mini series throughout the next couple episodes. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I've got a list of every episode. I'm going to go into one candidate, talk about their career so far, their strengths, their weaknesses, kind of give a profile to each coaching candidate that has been linked to the team, and perhaps some guys who I think should be considered. And on that note, let's take a quick minute to change from the Ottawa Senators team. Actually, no, sorry. There's one note that I forgot. The final. Sorry, hit the wrong button. The cherry on top for me. The last quality I'd like to see considered for head coach of the Senators is Be able to be consistent. Do not let a few wins be acceptable. Do not ease off of the gas pedal in a good stretch of a few periods, games, or even shifts. Do not give up and play easy when you're leading 5-0. Be consistent in levels of intensity, mentality, and structure. Always look at areas to improve instead of just being stagnant. Every single time that the Ottawa Senators won a game under DJ Smith, all he had to say was, "Great work tonight, guys. That Mark Hastelik line was great. Who's got the goggles?" That's it. Whereas what you should be doing is, you did this right, but next time let's be mindful of this. It's easy. It's really, really easy. It takes 30 seconds. It's easy. Go, I like what this player did this tonight. This was a mistake. Let's not do this again. Who's got the goggles? Simple. And then I will also say that I don't think that in the NHL, there's such a thing as running at the scoreboard. That's a minor hockey thing. When your kid is playing hockey and you're winning 5-0, 6-0, you don't get them to keep scoring goals. You say, okay, be respectful and play conservative. That's not an NHL thing. The NHL, you got to pay. It's a league of results. So if you're not trying to score the most goals possible, you're doing it wrong. I don't care if you win 13-0. Score as many goals as possible. Win the game. Especially when some of the tie-breaking stats when it comes to making the playoffs is goal differential. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I'm going to keep it short and say I agree with some of what you said, but yeah.
What did you not agree with?
I would say the part about hey, you did this well, but we gotta change this game or this approach to your game specifically. I would say that's not the time to do it. I would say that's
maybe, yeah.
You would say you would say like, hey, Jake, you did a really great job. Really appreciated your forecheck. You got to the middle of the ice. You were actually able to, box out some players or whatever. And then the next day it would be, okay, Jake, you did all these things really well last game. Let's approach it this way. Like, let's work our way. Let's try to adjust the way that you play so that you will be even more effective. Because it's about saying, hey, we did these things really well. And I get the message is stop being so lovey-dovey.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like that's at least how I interpreted it, which was
basically
the DJ Smith was like, oh yeah, where everything's like rainbows, butterflies, puppies, and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, that's not sure. There could be an argument to be made that would be an effective approach to take with younger players, but long term, that's not.
At a certain point.
Yes. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is what you're saying is that it's ultimately like, we just need to like stop that, but it's how we stop that. And it's about being able to say, you know what, Jake, you did a great job tonight. Again, great forecheck. I loved what you were able to do on the power play. You're really, really activated in the neutral zone. You controlled the puck. That was great. And then the next day it's like, okay, Jake, let's walk through some alternatives that you could do to approach that same play.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, so that's awesome. where I would say that's the difference that I feel. But outside of that, like I agree. I agree.
You're right there, and you convinced me. You're right there. Awesome. And we'll end that off there. Unless you have anything else, do you have anything else you want to say about a coach? Let's take a bit of time before we end off today's episode and talk about the PWHL. I'm going to kind of give this a bit to Chris to kind of fill us in what we've missed since the last episode.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much. Always appreciate the chance to be able to talk PWHL. Obviously, from an Ottawa perspective, we were unfortunately in a position in which we were supposed to be facing the Boston team. That was canceled in inclement weather. We saw a little bit of it here in Ottawa. It was supposed to be a lot worse. It didn't end up being that bad here, but it was there. So they were proactively, they had canceled that game. So outside of the home opener, our next game, that's our first and only game. Our next game is this coming Saturday against Toronto. So it's going to be the very first inaugural Battle of Ontario in the PWHL. So that'll be a really, really incredible game.
I'm not missing that game.
No, don't miss that game. That's going to be an incredible game. I know Toronto is 0-2 this season, but they are playing,
Toronto sucks.
yeah, they're playing really. They're playing well. I know that the score doesn't suggest that, but they're coming together, and I think they're going to make a little bit of noise. I know that's tough for me to say, but yeah. So at this point, since the last recording, there have been 2 games, which have been. So I watched the Montreal-New York game, which was the Marie-Philippe Poulin. She scored her first hat trick in that game. It was fantastic. Montreal really, honestly, it was overall a very even game. But I just think that obviously Montreal was able to get through that. They were able to play a lot more effectively, more consistently. I thought New York came out. There were moments where they were really, really strong, especially early in the game. It was very tight early in the game. North-South game. It was fantastic. But obviously Montreal was able to come out on that. Montreal, what was interesting was Montreal was expected to start their Anne-Renée Desbiens in that game. They did not start Anne-Renée Desbiens. They started Elaine Chuli, who actually played really, really well. She's 32. There were 32 shots against. She saved 30 of them. She was fantastic. This was actually also the very first game in which we had a reserve player not only start, but also score a goal. And that was fantastic. It was amazing to see that. Forgive me as I'm temporarily forgetting who that. Oh, it was Catherine Dubois. Catherine Dubois was fantastic in this game. She was someone who was signed just literally the day of, and she was great. She was fantastic. She was every shift she had, she was creating plays. So congratulations to Dubois for being the very first reserve player to be able to score a goal in this league. It was fantastic. And then the second game was the Toronto, Minnesota game. The Montreal game ended in 5-2 for Montreal. The Toronto game was 3-1 Minnesota against Toronto. I did not watch, I'll be transparent, I did not watch this one because I was so engrossed with the Montreal-New York game. But Minnesota is one of those teams, if you're sleeping on Minnesota, like you are missing out on something. Minnesota, especially... Sorry?
Ouch. I'm pretty sure I predicted them to not be the super high. I forget. I don't remember who I predicted to think. I know I predicted Ottawa to win, but I don't remember who I predicted in between that.
Yeah, so a lot of people had, including myself, unfortunately, I did have Minnesota ranked a little bit lower, specifically based off of their goaltending. But they are now, they've played incredibly well. And I would say also shout out to Ken Klee, who took over like 10 days before the season started. He's coach. He took over and he's just played. He's really got the most out of these players. And I would say, to no surprise, like Taylor Heisey has been incredible this season. She had 2 goals in that game. She's up to 3 goals this season. And when you watch her play, you're watching a player who she will carry the puck. Like she carries the puck and she is so fast. She moves she just makes it look so incredibly easy. She actually had, so in this game, she had 2 goals, 1 assist, And she's someone. Do not sleep on the Minnesota team. Their goaltending has been incredible. Whomever you're looking at. So it doesn't matter. For me, I was initially really high on Nicole Hensley, and I'm not going to lie to you, I still am. But Maddie Rooney has played incredibly well. She didn't play in this game, but they have a real strong goaltending presence. And so I would say, pay close attention. It's selfishly, maybe not necessarily objectively, pay attention to Ottawa, but pay attention to Minnesota. It's been an incredible week. Next up, so at this point, we have Saturday is going to be Ottawa, Toronto, as well as Boston, Montreal. So that's the first double header, technically the first double header, where we'll have Ottawa, Toronto at 1 p.m. Eastern, Boston, Montreal at 3:30. So please make sure you stay tuned for that. And then Sunday, we also have New York, Minnesota. It's going to be a fantastic next couple of days for women's hockey. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And if my memory serves me correct, the Ottawa game is going to be for on TSN that day. TSN will be broadcasting the Ottawa game. But if you cannot get it, I'll be sure to tweet out the link to the live stream like I've been doing lately.
Yeah, so remember, that's a great shout out. Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. There are a ton of different great streaming services for it, whether it's TSN, whether it's CBC, whether it's Sportsnet, but you can always find it on the PWHL's official YouTube channel. And what's great about their YouTube channel is they've continued to improve the graphics that they have on the screen. So, before it was literally just a score. Now they have shots. Now they have, they've added when a goal is scored, they include that on the graphic on the screen. So they continue to improve that. So it's fantastic. But please make sure that you subscribe to their YouTube channel so you never miss. And there's no blackouts, which is great. NHL, take note.
Take note, man.
Yeah.
My biggest thing that I said in our Talking Some Sens group chat when the schedule was announced, the first thing I said was, holy crap, the PWHL figured out blackouts before the NHL could.
Yeah.
Granted, PWHL is 6 teams, the NHL is 32 teams. It's a lot more of a logistical nightmare when you have 32 teams. But I'm so pleasantly surprised that I'm not going to have to illegally stream a PWHL game when I can't get it because I'm blacked out.
Exactly. And especially for international, right? Like if you're outside of, North America, then typically, especially for the States, then you're finding you have to find a stream in wherever you are. And like I said, I've been watching it and I'm in Canada. I've been watching the YouTube streams of it and they've been incredible, but you can watch those anywhere in the world. It just sucks on when it comes to time zones and stuff like that. But regardless, it's fantastic. It's great. And so please make sure Saturday, Sunday, it's a full weekend of PWHL coverage, and it's going to be your PWHL hockey games, and it's just going to be incredible. It's going to be an incredible weekend for women's hockey.
Yes. Now I've got a fun game to piggyback off of before we wrap this up and give a couple shout outs.
Shout-outs is what I expect the shout-outs to be? Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. We'll get back to that. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
Cool.
We are going to do a PWHL draft of a starting lineup.
Okay.
So 3 forwards, 2D, 1 goalie.
Okay.
Hold on here.
Okay.
What the? I think the hockey news is accidentally. Oh no, never mind. That's wrong. That's old. Never mind. Sorry, I was gonna say I thought the hockey news leaked the Toronto team name, but that's old. It's wrong. Sorry.
Okay. So you want to do three forwards, 2 defensemen, or 2 defenders, and 1 goaltender.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, okay. I'm dying here. Whew. You're gonna start because I cannot breathe right now.
Okay. So what I'll say is I am so in terms of I mean this is like there's a lot more work. For the record, I had no idea this question was going to be asked. So I always like to clarify.
Sorry.
I have no. That's fine. It keeps me on my toes. I appreciate it. So this might be hotly contested, and I'm down with it. In terms of forwards, what I would do is, I mean, it's difficult. I'm trying not to be I'm trying to be impartial, not impartial. Sorry, I'm trying to be not partial. I'm trying to like not just choose Ottawa players, but what I
Yeah,
would
that's
say,
our thing for me too.
what I would say is initially, I want Taylor Heisey as a forward. I want.
Here.
I
Wait,
mean,
no, we're picking one player at a time.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, like a draft.
okay.
Here, let me hold on here. I was just preparing my. Let me just hold. I'm gonna note this down as you do it. So
Okay.
your first overall pick is Taylor Heisey.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. I thought we were doing like full teams. Yeah.
No, that's not fair.
No.
Because I can't pick the same players you pick, and you can't pick the same players I pick.
Okay. Yeah.
Taylor. And I'm really sorry. I just know she's a forward, correct?
Yes.
What position? I don't remember exactly. I don't follow Minnesota enough.
She is a winger. Technically, with women's hockey, like it's not necessarily super descriptive, but she is typically a winger. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, left winger. Let me just make sure that I have that right.
All good.
Right. Sorry, actually, Taylor Heisey is actually a center, so she's she shoots right. Yeah.
So she's your first line. She's your center.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is where I'm going to go boring, and I'm surprised you never pick her. I'm going to go number 1, Lariviere.
No, yeah. Well, yeah. Outside of her last game, I haven't really liked her game so far this season. So, yeah, I knew that was. But that's where I was like, I thought we were doing a full team, but that's fine. Like all at once. But yes, absolutely.
No, yeah.
That's a great pick. Yeah.
Thank you. Hold on here. So each team is going to be 6 picks, obviously. So you're at number 2. So your second pick. Who's going to be your second pick?
So I have my top line center. I'm going to do I guess technically my left winger will be Alex Carpenter.
That's where I'm going to go ahead and pick Sarah Nurse for my left wing.
Okay.
You're next. It doesn't have to be right. You can pick whatever position as long as it's not a position you've already picked for.
Yeah. I'm gonna do my. I'm just gonna take care of my winger first, or my my top line.
Sure.
What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do. Oh, this is easy. So I if I'm not mistaken, I have my left wing with Carpenter.
Your left wing and your center, yes.
Yeah. So Hillary Knight with my. She will be my right wing.
Rats.
That's a heck of a top line. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. So that's who I was going for my right wing. But now I have time. So I'm thinking, do I pick my right wing or do I wait a bit? Because now you can't pick a right winger.
Do what you want to do.
But I want to pick. Hold on. Hold on here. Okay, I know who I'm picking.
Okay.
Renata Fost.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Literally the person or the player I was looking at. Yeah. Well played.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So now, and I'm doing this. I'm very strategic. I know that some are going to disagree with this, but that's fine. I'm going to go defense. Actually, I'm going to go goaltender.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do Nicole Hensley. So now
Minnesota,
I just have two.
right?
Minnesota, yes. I just have to do defense.
So now that means I'm going to leave my goalie as my last pick because now you can't pick a goalie, and I'm going to win the goalie pick.
You're not going to.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Oh.
Oh man, now the defense, the other defense I want to pick is also right-handed. I'm a little stuck here. Do I pick her and have my defense off-handed, or what do I do here?
I'm not going to tell you what to do. So,
you know what? I know what I'm going to do. Jincy Rose.
Okay, yeah, she's fantastic. I've had conversations with her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So great call. Great call.
Yeah, that's what I'll do there.
Okay.
I was thinking. Actually, I'll let you pick I'll let you pick that player beforehand before I say who I was going to pick.
Okay. Ella Shelton. She's a left shot defender.
She Montreal, correct?
New York.
Oh man. Okay. That means I'm gonna go. Jamie Lee Rattray.
Okay, good Ottawa product. I can respect that.
Yeah, right wing.
I mean, this was easy, so I'm glad that this worked out this way. Abby Cook. She's a right shot defender.
Remind me what team she plays on.
New York. Sorry,
Okay.
Minnesota. I sounded so confident, but it was Minnesota. My apologies.
Which leaves me at. Oh, go ahead. No, it's all good.
No, go ahead.
Leaves me at goalie.
Yeah.
Man, this is harder than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, I feel like you're playing this up because I feel like I know exactly who you're going to pick.
I'm probably going to go with the person I've been thinking about this entire time, but now I'm doubting it. Screw it. I'll do it. Anne-Renée Desbiens.
I knew that was coming. I
cannot bet against her.
Yeah. Best goalie in the world, so that's fair. I get that.
Yeah. It was hot. It was her. It was either her or it was Toronto's goalie. I can't remember her name.
Kristen Campbell?
That's it. Yep. It was either her or Kristen Campbell.
I mean, it's never a bad thing to bet on Team Canada. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna send Chris a picture of these lines of this team, and we're gonna do a bit of a vote to see who drafted better.
All right, I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. And before we head off, I just wanted to talk about Chris's podcast, the Ringside Rundown. He's been doing some great work so far. He finally got episode 1 out of the podcast. By the time you're hearing this, I'll say 2 days ago. By the time you're hearing this, and I'll let you hype that episode up a little bit.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so I had a great conversation with Noemi Nuberova. She's a member of the Czechia national team, back-to-back bronze medalist. Congratulations to her. Fantastic. Those are world championships. She's been a part of Olympic Games as well, really helping to define that Czechia national team, the program there. She currently plays in Brennus in the Brennus IF in the SDHL. Super incredible episode. Really enjoyed it. She is fantastic. If you were like, you know what, I don't really know anything about her. Trust me, you want to know everything about her because she is absolutely incredible. Super candid conversation. Really down to earth. And just the most friendly person you'll ever meet in your entire life. I've said 1,000, and I've said this directly to her. I've said this to everyone that I've spoken to about this. Could not say anything more incredible about her other than just to know she is an incredible human being, and to be able to have a chance to chat with her, to be able to share her story was something that I'll never forget. And once again, I said this in the episode, but she was the inaugural guest on the Ringside Rundown podcast. So I have to work on some gift for her. I have to. It just needs to happen. But yeah, make sure that you follow her again. Noemi Nubarova, a fantastic individual. Most importantly, a fantastic individual and equally great hockey player. She's a forward. Okay.
Oh,
Next
absolutely.
up, I have on Monday. I will be interviewing Naomi. I like the Noemis, apparently. Naomi Rogi. And this is super, super exciting for me. I cannot wait for this one. She's a University of Minnesota Duluth graduate. She's currently playing in also in the SDHL, which is the Swedish Development Hockey League, which is technically the Swedish Women's Hockey League. Again, that's SDEHF, where currently this season she has 12 points in 22 games. She's fantastic. I cannot wait for everyone to be able to hear this interview. We're just gonna, just as per usual, it's about like get to know the player, get to know like what got you into hockey, what inspires you, what motivates you, who are some of those mentors, and then like talk to me about this season. What are you looking forward to most as your career grows? And we also talk about the PWHL and what that means for women's hockey. It's just going to be another great conversation. I just want to give a quick shout out as well, and I'll quit blabbering on, but just to, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this, but the Hecate Sports Group, you've been fantastic in terms of getting me in touch with these players. Also 93 Hockey Services. You've also been super supportive in getting me in touch with these players. I just want to give you a huge shout out to those two agencies who have been really instrumental in terms of being able to connect me with these players. It's just been so much fun. These interviews, you have to tune into these interviews. They are just so much fun to be able it feels like we're just a couple of people sitting around at a coffee house, just having a coffee and just having great conversations. So please make sure you stay tuned for the next episode, which will be featuring again Naomi Rogi.
Awesome. Yes. I would have liked to say all that, but I'm going to be completely honest. You always say it the best, so I'm glad I left it to you there. I listened to the first, I'm going to say 15-ish minutes of your first episode, and I'll be finishing the episode a little bit later tomorrow morning. I just couldn't finish it all, and I wouldn't go, but it was sorry, so very insightful, very much of an insightful episode, and I cannot wait to keep watching more.
Love it. Appreciate the support, and thank you for this time.
Of course.
Yeah.
And on that note, unless there's anything else we want to mention, is there anything else that I'm forgetting here?
Nope. Covered everything. Yes, absolutely. All good.
Okay, awesome. On that note,
make sure that you're watching the PWHL. That's all I can say.
Yes.
That's what I will say. That's how
absolutely.
Watch the PWHL. You are missing out. If you haven't watched any games, you are missing out on an incredible sport, an incredible game. These athletes are incredible, elite, so good. And most importantly, they're incredible people.
Absolutely,
so they balance being an incredible person and having an incredible skill set. So watch these games. You got to pay attention.
Support this sport.
Yeah.
This sport needs us more than it ever has before.
Yeah, it's
giving us a chance. We need to give it a chance.
Absolutely. They say this is not a moment. This is a movement.
It's a movement. Her story. And on that note, we're going to end things off with the legendary Go Sens Go and Go PWHL Ottawa. Have a good night, folks.